We're going to be checking out 7 ways British and American restaurants are very different. I recently did 7 ways how the pubs are different, and it was a really good video. Didn't even realize that America had pubs, I'm not going to lie. I obviously know America has restaurants, but how they're different to the UK? Yeah, let's take a look, see what we got with this.
Agree there'll be places in Britain that sell Chicago-style pizza, even though it's nothing like it.
Right.
Or even in my birthplace of Cleethorpes, Chicago-style burgers, whatever that is.
Let me guess, they don't do that in America,
Hello,
right?
I'm Lawrence, and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond. And one of those memos pertains to restaurants. And because food is involved, restaurants happen to be a kind of central hub for where British and American differences play out more broadly.
Better food is one.
In not just the food, but the terminology that's used and some of the customs that are practiced and the practices that are customed. And of course, the mere concept of a restaurant, I don't know why I'm doing that, the mere concept of a restaurant is universal. But the way that they are presented to and used by Brits and Americans is subtly and sometimes not so subtly different. And so here are 7 ways in which British and American restaurants are very different.
Right, let's see.
For Brits moving to or even visiting the United States of America, one of the biggest culture shocks, at least for me, was the kind of round-the-clock attention that servers pay to their customers.
That would get some, that'll take some time getting used to, because in the UK, the service is ass. Like, bro, it's gonna take so long. Well, not that long, but like for them to come up and check on you, get, you know, take what your order. And then, like, the worst part that I find in the UK is getting the bill. I don't know why. It's like they don't want you to pay for the bill, right? So, like, you can ask for the bill like 2-3 times, and it still won't come with a bill. It'll be like 20-30 minutes. It can take a long time. It really can. Sometimes, bro, I've been waiting there for like 40 minutes. It's still not came with a bill. I've gone up like twice. Oh, it's so annoying.
Your glass of water is empty. We can't be having that. American servers come right on over, minus the whistling
that's so
sound,
good.
usually. And in between that and a bite of your broccoli, American waitstaff will be over just to simply ask, how's that food tasting? Can I get you anything else? Golly gee, that's a nice accent. Which part of Australia are you from? Those kind of questions. Whereas
Nice.
British waitstaff are staff that, you know, wait to come over until you're all done. And part of this is tied to the notion of tips and tipping. In Britain, contrary to popular belief, servers do make a bulk of their income from tips. But unlike in America, tipping is voluntary and not at all expected. A lot of Brits who come to the United States, myself included, don't know this at first. In my case, I even asked the waiter how much I should tip, so I gave her the 75% she recommended and moved on. Of course, with time...
Okay, then. Yo, if a waiter comes up to me and says, you got to tip 75%, oh, they ain't no way. Unless you was feeding me the food, sure. Nah, even no.
I came to learn that the expected amount here in the United States of America is 15 to 20% of your bill and or check. Will come onto terminology later.
But I've heard that the food is like cheaper, right? So like when you go to a restaurant, it's not crazy more expensive because of the tipping.
It's been noted, especially within the fast food industry, that portion sizes in the United States of America are much larger than their European counterparts.
Right, it's bigger in America.
But often, depending on where you go, this can also be true of sit-down restaurants. One of the first major American sit-down chain restaurants that I visited was a little place called Applebee's. And at the likes of Applebee's, but also the Olive Garden or TGI Friday or any number of other chains.
I used to love TGI Fridays. I don't know what's happened though, because TGI Fridays obviously came from America. We've got a lot in the UK. It was really nice food. And then recently, it's just been bad. I don't know why.
Appetizer almost feels like a main course / entree. Again, terminologies later. And by the time that the actual main course arrives, you eat it merely out of politeness, while pretending that this is all fine. And then, this is the really funny bit, they ask you if you want to see the dessert menu. And of course you can't say no, because you're addicted to cheesecake. And that's always humongous and rich, as opposed to humongous and poor, which is what you are when you leave the restaurant. Except that cheap joke doesn't quite work, because American food on the whole is actually cheaper compared to the food served in Britain, which is partially how you account for the portion size difference. Now, after a while, I noticed that there were Americans all around me that, instead of plowing through this mountain of calories in one sitting, answered yes to what was then an unfamiliar question to me. That's right. It's completely normal in the United States of America to have your food boxed at the end of the meal with the intention of you taking it home and refrigerating it.
You know what? A couple of times I've actually done that, but it's not common in the UK. it's really not common. In fact, I kind of feel weird asking. So I have done it where I've left like quite a bit of my food, and I was like, oh, can I take it home? Because, you know, it's really nice and I want to take it home. But I feel weird asking it.
Or just eat it later that night if you're feeling lucky. And of course, now that makes sense, right? I mean, you've paid your money for that food. You want to get your money's worth.
Right.
On top of that, it cuts down on waste. But at first, just because of what I was used to back home, it seemed weird to be taking leftovers home from a restaurant. In Britain, as evidenced by this BBC article from a few years.
See, that's where, it's embarrassing to ask. It's like kind of like when I've done it, I felt weird. I felt like I shouldn't be doing it, but I was like, screw it, I want it.
Back. We've historically felt embarrassed even to ask for a box or a doggy bag because I don't know, I haven't a clue why, actually. Either way, I think leftovers are great to the extent that I have Indian food for breakfast. Don't judge me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, takeaway leftovers, bang. Like, what I've started to do is we will get more food with our takeaway, and then we'll have less. Oh, it's so good.
Buffets, aside from the fact that America seems to be just a tad more into them than Britain, there's an aspect of the buffet going experience that differs greatly between the two countries. Where I was from, depending on the buffet in question, I almost got the impression that it was rude to the kitchen staff to ask for a new plate when you're going up for seconds. In other words, whenever I went for, say, a Chinese buffet, I would go up, get my plate, scoop on all the food, go back to my table, realize that I am unrelentingly gluttonous, and then go back up for seconds using the same plate. It made me feel good that while devouring lots of solids, I'd done a solid to the kitchen staff. That could be taken so many ways. Whereas once I moved to the United States, I realized that this was considered either weird or unhygienic. At American buffets, customers are expected to get a new, cleaner plate when they go up for seconds. Because
wait, to be fair though, when I've been to buffets in the UK, I've just always got a new plate. I just thought it's normal. Like, I don't want the new food that I'm getting touching the old food. Because, like, for example, let's say you have, like, let's just say curry, right? You don't want whatever you're getting next to be touching the curry unless you're getting something, you know what I mean?
This is a measure seen at preventing cross-contamination. But I have to say, after practicing both methods, neither has caused me any personal problems. But while we're on the subject of Chinese food, that brings us on to this. I think it's fair to say that in both Britain and America, ethnic food, or food that is usually associated with a country that is not this one, is extremely popular. And to varying degrees, no matter if you're talking about the United States or Britain, the same countries are often represented at the dinner table. Off the top of my head, the big one is Chinese food. Except you guessed it, British Chinese food and American Chinese food is vastly different. In Britain, Chinese food is often spicy, sometimes curry-based. In the US, on the other hand, Chinese food tends to be centered around standalone fried meats, usually of the chicken variety. Now, these are not entirely absent from Britain, but one way that America differentiates itself is that its Chinese food tends to be a lot sweeter than in Britain.
Right, okay. Well, I think that in the UK, we kind of have that as well. But maybe, yeah, America's just a lot sweeter.
But whichever way you slice it, I planned that. Both British and American Chinese cuisine is a modified version of what actual Chinese people eat in China.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And this seems to be a common theme that actually unites Britain and America. Take, for example, Indian food. While it should be pointed out that Indian food is more widely eaten in Britain than in the United States, and that in my experience, certain Indian curries tend to be spicier than their American counterparts. Neither is anywhere near as spicy as authentic Indian.
Wait, that's actually like interesting to know about America, because from what I've seen so far, I've heard that Americans can handle spice a lot more than, you know, British people. We're very more bland. And to be fair, Indian food isn't that spicy, I'm not gonna lie.
On the other hand, in terms of everything I just said there, almost the exact opposite is true of Mexican food. America,
I love Mexican
food. Of its neighborly status with Mexico, eats way more Mexican food than Britain does, even if, by all accounts...
Yeah, I've said this many times. It's actually really hard to find a Mexican place in the UK. Like, we do have quite a few, but especially for like takeaways and stuff, I can't really find anywhere to order Mexican food. Otherwise, I would order it all the time. I love nachos. I love nachos. I love absolutely nachos. But I love Mexican food, so I would order it all the time, but I just can't find it anywhere.
Tacos and the like have started to make waves in Britain, but even America's version of Mexican food is often a departure from what's eaten south of the border, with authentic Mexican food often less spicy than Americans are used to. And it was in the restaurants of America that I got a first-hand feel for how America likes to modify the national dishes of other countries to create what amounts to their own version, because they even do this with English cuisine. And that brings us on to this. If you were to ask me to name 3 dishes from both countries, off the top of my head, I would say this. For Britain, fish and chips, Sunday roast, and a full English breakfast.
Boom. That is the best free foods in the UK.
For America, hamburgers, hot dogs, and pizza. And yes, I realise that all of those have disputed or undisputed origins in Germany and Italy, but over time they have become synonymous with the United States. But to a lesser degree,
United States just claimed them now.
And because of American influence, hamburgers, hot dogs, and pizza can all be found in restaurants in the UK. And I'm sure to some degree there'll be places in Britain that sell Chicago-style pizza, even though it's nothing like it.
I've never seen that, but yeah, if I ever see one, I'll try it and see what it's like.
Or even in my birthplace of Cleethorpes, Chicago-style burgers, whatever that is. But in reverse, whenever America tries to replicate popular British dishes, it's sort of like being in an alternate universe. It's great, but it's different. Very rarely do you get fish and chips where the chips / fries are thick cut and greasy.
Oh,
and
really?
The fish is singular and large. Instead, you usually get 3 or 4 smaller pieces of fish that are usually a tad saltier than what you'd expect back home. Oh, and did I mention there's no mushy peas?
Yeah, see, I'm not too bothered about mushy peas. I do like mushy peas, but I prefer curry sauce on my fish and chips. But it'd be interesting to try in America to see how different it is. Fish and chips in the UK is really good.
Honestly, it's like being in the south of England. And in terms of the other two, the Sunday roast and the full English breakfast, well, I found those a lot harder to come by in the US than fish and chips. Even at those pubs that, you know, every state has that purport to be authentically British.
Oh, wow.
And lastly, we can't talk about British versus American restaurant differences without talking about the terminology.
True.
See, it's one thing to get your food boxed at the end of a sit-down meal, but many of us might like to take it home without sitting down in the restaurant in the first place. In Britain, I always knew this as getting takeaway, which is why I was profoundly confused when I worked in an American office environment, and they talked about the key takeaways from the meeting. I thought I was getting curry and chips. In America, this is referred to as takeout or sometimes carry out.
Takeout.
Regardless of portion size, we can't even agree on what to call each meal. In the US, for the most part, the meal immediately preceding the main meal is usually known as an appetizer. In Britain, I always refer to this as a starter, but some, as the French do, might call it an entree.
An
entree? This is where things get to starter, but some, as the French do, might call it an entree.
What, in America or in the UK?
This is where things get confusing, because Americans and Canadians alike use the word entree to mean the main meal. For us, the main meal is usually known as the main course. If it's a Sunday roast, that main course will include a Yorkshire pudding, and this is where things get...
Yorkshire puddings are so good. One of my favourite foods. Oh, when I get like a Sunday dinner, I need like 4 or 5 Yorkshire puddings. If you've never had one, search them up, try and get one. They're so good. They're so basic and plain, but really good.
Get doubly confusing because we in Britain also use the word pudding as a catch-all term for dessert. In fairness, pudding, we do also interchangeably use the word dessert. In America, the word pudding is more specific, and the catch-all term has been deserted in favour of dessert. And the implements with which we eat this food, i.e. the knife, fork, and spoon, is known collectively in the United States as silverware, whereas this word, when used in Britain, would pertain more to ornate metal plates, or perhaps metallic jugs, or sports trophies. A lot of the time, instead, we'll collectively refer to knives, forks, and spoons as cutlery. And as we all know, it's very rude to leave a restaurant without paying. And this is why we ask for the bill, or at least we do in Britain.
Wait, what do you guys say?
Here in the US, Americans will ask for the check. And
oh, wait, really?
This episode, let me know in the comments below if you've
getting the bill in the UK is so annoying.
Been to restaurants in both countries and what some of your observations were.
It's really cool though. I would actually love to go to America and go to a restaurant and just see how different it is. It'll be really nice to see. It sounds much better, I'm not gonna lie. Really good video though. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you leave a thumbs up, subscribe for more content. I'm live every single day on twitch.tv/LWG. If you guys want to check me out over there, I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.